and welcome to the Blancpain GT Series Asia. I'm Renai Matu, coming to you from Suzuka circuit in Japan. This an iconic circuit, the home of Formula One in Japan, and I'm really excited to be here. I know the drivers are too. 28 cars lining up in GT3 and GT4, and after rounds in Buriram and in Malaysia, the competition is well and truly underway and well and truly tight. Just 5 points separates the top 3 positions in the driver categories for GT3. It's very close in the team championships as well. And in the GT4, SRO Motorsports is leading the pack. Now I'm going to chase down some of those drivers. Bruce Jones joined me in commentary. Bruce Jones?
Thanks very much, Renai. Great to see you down on the grid, and also a lovely, lovely day here at Suzuka, and probably about 10 degrees cooler than it was for Renai before the start of the race at the Chang International Circuit just a few weeks ago. So as Renai said, 28 cars looking down high shot, looking up towards the final quarter, the grid packed with people. As you can see, of course, the flags blowing away on the grid, and that's keeping it relatively cool, but track temperature is rising as the clouds are burning away. The cars just making their way to the front of the grid. The pole starting Porsche, the yellow and green one from Craft Bamboo Racing, just arrived in pole position. That's on the pit wall side, and as Renai said, the top 3 positions in the championship covered by just 5 points. So it's super, super close at the top. But with 25 points to win, anybody who's not even at the top end could work their way up the championship. This is only round 3 of 6. Beautiful shots showing exactly how close to the coast the Suzuka circuit is, and really, really perfect conditions for the drivers as they line up ahead of the race. Very tight at the top, but up the front of the grid, a great mix of cars. We've got a Porsche, 2 Audis, a Lamborghini, a Mercedes. So 4 makes of cars in the top 5 places alone. In fact, 5 in the top 6, because then we have one of 4 new teams arriving this weekend to the championship, starting in 6th place. That's ARN Racing, one of, as I say, 4 new Japanese teams coming to join the show this weekend, and 15 drivers new to the championship, as well as others returning after missing round 2 at Buriram. So lots of different faces in different places, and just look how the grid is filling up. The journalists and photographers going out, as well as VIPs to take a look at these cars. GT3 racers really catching the imagination of the racing world. So we're looking at the grid. Why do we not? Let's head down to Kei Cozzolino. He's with Renai on the grid.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with one of the Japanese drivers this weekend. Kei,
yes.
How are you doing, Car Guy?
Yes, Car Guy Racing. This is actually, we are a race-by-race visitor, so this will be our first race as Car Guy Racing, and we're so excited to be here, really.
Now, your teammate is lining up in the car. He's the car guy, I understand.
Yes, Mr. Kimura. He is a gentleman driver, so we're competing in a Pro-Am class. And he is the car guy. He's a car maniac, and he owns a bunch of supercars here, does amazing events in Japan. Actually, rents out a whole circuit, and we also do our own races. And this is actually our first year as a racing team, so to get into real motorsports. And this is actually the first race here in Blancpain GT Asia.
What a brilliant race to be joining. And Blancpain, I mean, you're a race car driver. There's lots of Japanese guys behind, lining up. The competition is going to be pretty tight.
Yes, we have all the European manufacturers here, but you know what? Japanese racing teams, the racing and culture here is one of the top class. You have the best manufacturers here like Honda, Toyota, Nissan that do a great job, and we have a great team. So we're here to fight against European teams. Yes.
Okay, good luck today. Kei and Car Guy, it's getting crazy out here in the pits. Bruce, over to you.
Well, fantastic to see Kei Cozzolino, who's raced for many years in Europe, but mainly in Japan, and he'll be racing the 777 Lamborghini, easiest car to spot. It's about halfway down the grid. It's bright, bright, luminous green, so there's no way you can miss it. Of course, he'd rather be at the front of the grid, but just to reiterate, we have 1 race today, Blancpain GT Series Asia, and 1 tomorrow. And in the driver lineups, particularly as Kei was talking about, you have Pro-Am combinations, and the Am driver will start today's race, and then between 25 minutes into the race and 35 minutes, they will come in and have a pit stop of a mandatory time. You cannot go out of the pits too soon. They'll hand over to their fellow driver. So largely the Pro drivers are coming through, and they will take over in the second half of the race. But the car on pole is the bright yellow and green Porsche number 99, which will be started by Daryl O'Young. And let's go down Renai's going to talk to the co-driver, Peter Lee.
Yes, I got Peter Lee with me now. And Daryl's lining up in pole position. It's a good place to be starting from.
Yeah, it's really good. We start pole position for race 1. We've been work whole the weekend to improve the car, and also it's my second time to be here, and really looking forward.
Yeah. Ed, you've had some success here before, and I know you like this track. What's so great about Suzuka?
Yes, I like Suzuka. It's a nice track, and I won 2012 GT Asia races here. So I hope we can have a good success.
Okay. Good luck today.
Thank you.
There you have it, looking to recreate some of that success here.
Thanks very much, Renai, because Peter Lee, Chinese racer, is one of the leading young Chinese racers, and he's also raced quite heavily in Europe in Formula 3 for the last few years. So good to hear from him. But just to reiterate, he'll be taking over in the second half of the race, because Daryl O'Young will be racing that yellow and green Porsche away from pole position, but he's got to get down to the first corner ahead of the 86 OD Racing Audi that's already been a winner this year with the opening round. Aditya Patel, who'll be starting, and Mitch Gilbert took the opening victory, the inaugural victory in the Blancpain GT Series at Sepang. So he shows that the Audi is definitely a car to watch, and that car's starting tomorrow's race on the front row as well. There it is, 86, looks great, a lot of Audis. The R8, such a popular car, R8 LMS Ultra, and you'll learn to pick them out as we go through the race. So this one from OD Racing, looking very good, and a really well-balanced driver pairing with Aditya Patel and Mitch Gilbert on board. Quite hard to pick the cars out from this long shot. You can see just how busy it is. It's a bit like insects around a honeypot as people get a look at these cars. You can see the pole position sign next to the yellow and green Craft Bamboo Racing Porsche. Porsche's at the back of the grid. There are 5 cars running in GT4. These are all Porsche Caymans. You can see them just behind the Suzuka circuit gantry, and they have their own battle. And GT4, it's a junior class, if you will, but it is growing and growing so fast around the world. But the car you see now, number 5, is very much a GT3 runner, starting third on the grid with Marchi Lee on board. Very well placed at the championship, because he and his teammate Sean Thong sit second overall in the championship, just 2 points off the championship lead. So starting third today, 1 row, therefore 2 qualifying positions ahead of the championship leader, which is the Mercedes racer Hunter Abbott. So looking good for points. I'm going to come on to the fact that some of these cars will have time penalties, extra time they have to serve at their pit stop. It's a form of success ballast, if you will. But let's go down to Renai again, working very hard indeed. She's going to be talking to one of the GT4 runners, Frank Yu.
Thank you, Bruce. I'm with Frank Yu from the Bamboo Craft Racing. Now, GT4, it's a great category to be racing in off the back of the GT3.
Yeah, I think the grid is starting to build up in Asia. In Europe, obviously, it's already very successful. So hopefully next year, we'll get our own grid, 17, 18 cars, and it will be a great race for next year.
Yeah, and you just said to me, I know that it's such an exciting place to be racing in Japan. What's so great about Japan?
Well, the fans are amazing here. I did a few Super GT rounds 5-6 years ago, and they still remember me, and they came for autographs and brought us fruits and everything else. So, yeah, they're very warm-hearted, and yeah, just love the country here.
It really is something about Japan. So, more competition hopefully next year in the GT4. Looking forward to that. Over to you,
really
Bruce.
looking forward.
Well, that's good to hear from Frank Yu. Thank you very much to Renai. And this year, as I say, we've got 5 GT4 runners, but they're all in Porsche Caymans. But with so many manufacturers just launching and having launched other models, expect when we have more GT4 cars next year to be 5, 6 different manufacturers, maybe even more. Plenty of cars they can choose from in the junior class. And we'll keep an eye on that through the course of the race. Now, Lamborghini, this is up near the front end of the grid because it's on the outside of the second row, and it's Sandy Stuvik, a Thai racer, sharing with Nicolas Costa, a Brazilian who's one of the 15 drivers making his series debut this weekend. They did very well indeed, and it was a very stop-start qualifying session for these runners. We had a couple of red flags, which means that it may well be that the final grid order is not representative of the starting drivers' real pace. Some of them were just thwarted when they were trying to put their flying laps in. We had wind this morning. There's a bit of wind again this afternoon, which will keep the track temperatures down, certainly in terms of tyre life for everybody with their Michelins, with their Pirellis. It will really be a big, big help. This circuit, there's a lot of loading around the lap. The cars are very seldom in a straight straight line for very long indeed, and particularly through the fast corners like 130R, huge amount of loading. So it's very much for the drivers. It's only a 1 hour race, but it's very much a case of them keeping things under control, keeping some life in those racing Pirelli tyres, so they're still sweet at the end of the session. Now, number 28, one of 4 new teams coming on board this weekend. ARN Racing Ferrari, Hiroaki Nagai, Japanese racer, and he's handing over to a very useful teammate in Kuta Sasaki in the second half of the race, who is the pro in that Pro-Am lineup. Gradually people are clearing from the grid, so we're starting to be able to see the cars a bit more. We've been able to see those 2 cars on the front row for some time now. Darlow Young Porsche on the left-hand side of our screen on pole position, that's the side closer to pit wall. And Aditya Patel, the Indian racer, will be lining up alongside in that 86 Audi. So here we are looking down to sea from a high point near the Suzuka circuit. Can't always see the sea on hazy days, but it's a lovely day today. Not as hot as we would have feared, but what a circuit it is here at Suzuka. 5.807 kilometers of absolute racing magic. The drivers love it, and not without reason. It is a challenge from the start of the lap to the very finish, with plenty of gradient change to keep things interesting, as well as a host of interlocking corners. Get one slightly wrong, and the next one is going to be very difficult indeed. And we saw quite a few drivers stumbling, making slight slips over the curbs in qualifying, but to deliver a really good lap around here at Suzuka is something of enormous satisfaction to drivers, and you can understand why so many more teams wanted to come and race here this weekend. Of course, we always like to welcome as many drivers to this burgeoning championship as we can. So let's go down to the grid, because Renai has caught up with another driver, the 39 Ferrari, with Massimiliano Wieser.
Yes, Max Weiser, look, we had a very difficult qualifying. How are you expecting things to go today?
We have a good expectation for today's race because we had a good race pace during the practice. The car is quite competitive, but honestly the championship is competitive. I mean, the level is really high as well. I think it's the most competitive championship in Asia, so it will be not easy, but we are very confident on it.
Yes, and you're joined as well by lots of Japanese drivers. Competition between the Japanese drivers is pretty tough. It's going to be interesting out there.
It's very tough because they know very well all the parts of the Japanese track. They know all the little tricky, so we try to learn something. As this race we are following a Japanese car, so it will be good for us. We will do our best as usual.
Okay, all the best today.
Thank you.
Back
Bye.
to you in the booth.
Renai, always good to hear from Max Wieser, and don't think that he doesn't know the circuit. He's done a lot of racing in Japan, racing in GT Asia, the Asian Le Mans Series, and many other things besides the circuit here at Suzuka. There are bumps in difficult positions, and he'll be making sure that he knows how to avoid them. So here we are, the foliage blowing away. We can see there's a gentle wind this afternoon at Suzuka as we go into the countdown to the start of the first of 2 races this weekend for the Blancpain GT Series. And Suzuka, such a circuit. You can see every shot we look at, there is a corner of some sort to keep the drivers on their toes. Not a lot of runoff space. It's an old school racing circuit. You can see the edge of the circuit, the barriers are not that far from the edge of the tarmac. So it's very much important that the drivers don't do as they do at some modern circuits where they happily run off over the curbs, because if you do, you're going to get bitten very quickly indeed. Of course, the grid not perfectly lined up, but it will be hopefully when we come around at the end of the formation lap. So the grid being clear now, we can see 28 cars for this, the first of 2 races this weekend at Suzuka. The one tomorrow will be starting about 3 hours earlier than this, so track conditions will be different. But of course, tomorrow, the drivers who start second today will start the race tomorrow. So it makes it fair, makes it different. But today, of course, we're looking at a grid of great variety. Porsche, Audi, Lamborghini, Mercedes, Ferrari. So a wonderful mix of cars. 28 cars in all, and off we go on to the formation lap. So if you've never watched a lap of the circuit at Suzuka before, take a look at the action. Also, if some of these cars are new to you, the race liveries, that red Ferrari number 28, expect that to come good in the second half of the race when its pro driver gets on board, which is Kuta Sasaki. We spoke to Kei Cozzolino. The car he'll be driving is the 777 Lamborghini. Just saw it go through the picture. And one of the cars got put back 5 positions for an infringement during qualifying. That's the KCMG by Champion Racing Audi, which is down towards the back of the pack. The blue and red Ferrari you can see crossing your screen is one of 2 teams that come back on board. They didn't do the race in Thailand, but that's the T2 Motorsports Ferrari, which will be started by Greg Teo before handing over to David Chipto Biantoro. So it's great to welcome them back on board. Next race, the championship, is in the middle of August in Fuji, so we have effectively a Japanese double header, and we're expecting 1 or 2 more cars to come and join us. There's the car guy racing Lamborghini, very easy to pick out in day or night with that bright livery. And the 47 Porsche crossing the screen there is from D-Station Racing. That's joined this weekend with Satoshi Hoshino, and the driver will take over in the second part of the race, Seiji Ara. If you know your Le Mans 24-hour history, he won that 13 years ago for Audi, with Dindo Capello and Tom Christensen. Car Guy Racing also running a car here at Suzuka this weekend in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia. Quite a few of the drivers actually taking part in both of these races, and teammate Kay Cozzolino took victory in that just before lunch today, so he's already got 1 win to his name. Doesn't expect another, but let's be interested to see in the second half of the race how much he can move that bright greeny yellow Lamborghini up the grid. There it is, just coming into Spoon. Silver Ferrari, well, look out for that one too, one of the 2 from Spirit of Race. And that will be started by Portuguese racer Francisco Guedes from row 6. But he will be handing over to a very, very useful co-driver in Rui Aguas. Track conditions look very good indeed as we see the cars coming to they're working their way down the back straight, if you will. The next corner will be 130R, one of the legendary corners of the circuit. Now the drivers are starting to get into the 2x2 formation. It's beholden on all those behind to start closing up. There's still a bit of a distance down to that final very, very tricky chicane, but all of those at the back need to start pressing on. Now that number 7 Audi starting a long way down the grid on row 7 with Jeffrey Lee, but his teammate has put it on pole for tomorrow's race, Alessio Picariello, a Belgian racer. So this is a car that will also work its way forward. Just waiting for the GT4 Porsches to come through, and the best place of those on the grid is the Taiwan Top Speed Racing entry, George Chu, number 17 there. So through the final corner of the circuit, 2x2 they go. Safety car is pulled into the pit lanes for those drivers the whole way down the grid. They want to get onto the straight. It's a curve onto the straight, so it's hard for those further back to see. But the red lights on the starting gantry are on. The drivers can't put their foot down until we go green. Who's got the better start? In fact, both the front row starters very even, but Darrell Young has got the Porsche ahead, and Marchi Lee in behind is tucked in behind, pushing Aditya Patel out to the outside of the circuit. So Patel lost out 1 position. Marchi Lee, very good start indeed, and now Patel being challenged around the outside by Sandy Stuvik, but holds on to that 3rd place. He's lost 1, didn't fancy losing 2. Very good start by Darrell Young. From the front-on shot, it looked as though they were going to be monstered by the 2nd row. In the end, he wasn't monstered, but Aditya Patel in that 86 Audi most certainly was. 5th place on the grid, 5th place at the moment is our championship leader, the big Mercedes of Hunter Abbott. There you can see it, 999 in the background, but 99 starting to pull clear. So a really, really good start there from Darrell Young. Sitting on an advantage of, well, we're dealing in fractions of a second at the moment, but it's all about not taking too much of a risk on this opening, that little wide for a lot of the runners going through the second part of the Degness. Then they will come up to the hairpin. And if Darrell Young can get in and out of this hairpin without being challenged, and so he has, then things will look good for him to settle down in the lead of the race. Nice, clean. Whole field seems to have got away. Obviously the GT4 Porsche Caymans will be at the back of that long line. Now they're starting to string out a bit. Darrell Young will be giving himself a pat on the back, but Marchi Lee certainly showed a lot of ambition, but this morning Marchi was a little bit ragged in qualifying. Now let's see if he can keep it smooth and then see if he can hunt down. They're just going out of Spoon. Oh dear, the Sandy Stuvik Lamborghini. A lot of dirt, a lot of dust, and I'm sure that will cut his momentum onto the back straight. And look at the big Mercedes. Hunter Abbott not quite alongside, but he'll get his nose up in front, or will he? No, he won't before 130R. I thought that was going to be a position lost by Sandy Stuvik, but what it has done as he gets pushed really hard by Hunter Abbott. Pushed and contact as they go into the chicane. Abbott and Stuvik side by side. They close the door on each other, and then we've almost had a change. Well, the race leaders changed because Darrell O'Young made a mistake. Marchie Lee got through as we were looking what happened behind. I think it must have been a mistake on the exit of the chicane. And now Aditya Patel in the 86 Audi side by side. He's on the outside line going down to the first curve, but hasn't got his nose in front. But they're going to go round side by side. Who's going to come out ahead? Who will be in second place? My money's on Darrell O'Young, and so he achieves, but very tight indeed. Hunter Abbott, though, I'd like to have a look at that replay as they approach the slightly kinked line into the chicane, side by side with Sandy Stuvik, who'd already had that moment going onto the back straight. They clattered, ran through the chicane, rejoined, didn't gain any positions. Now what we're seeing, though, is the ARN Racing Ferrari getting tucked in behind with Nagai at the wheels. So one of the best placed of the four new teams this weekend, or teams new to Blancpain GT Series Asia. Best place of those in 6th place. And don't forget that Nagai has got a very, very handy co-driver who will be taking over. A driver who knows the circuit here at Suzuka very well indeed. Love to see a replay of what happened to our erstwhile race leader, the driver of the 99 Porsche, because he approached the chicane in front, but came out of it in 2nd place. Well, how about the start of the race? Let's look back to that. It all seemed very even between the Audi on the outside of the front row and the Porsche, but you can't see the Marchie Lee Audi very much because it's tucked in behind as Darrell O'Young takes the lead, and then the Audi number 5 slots into 2nd place. Aditya Patel goes from 2nd back to 3rd. Around the outside, trying to get 3rd place goes Sandy Stuvik. It doesn't quite work out. Hunter Abbott tucked in behind in 5th place in the Mercedes. Certainly Sandy Stuvik was looking this way and that. Now, there was the side-by-side concept. Still quite hard to call what happened at the chicane, but the cars in 4th and 5th off the circuit and then rejoined. Wow, so really feisty opening lap of the race, and for a couple of drivers, Sandy Stuvik in particular, he had 2 moments on that lap. The first, a run off the circuit coming out of Spoon, but he got it back on the track, didn't lose too much position, momentum or position, but then he did lose position when he had the side-by-side contact with Hunter Abbott. But at the end of the 2nd lap, it looks like Marchie Lee has got, well, his advantage has gone out a little bit, 1.895 seconds, but Darrell O'Young is settling down again. Whatever mistake he made at the end of the previous lap, or the opening lap, he has reversed and he seems to be settling. And now what we're seeing is that Nagai, tucked in behind Abbott, is settling down very nicely. There's Hunter Abbott, the championship leader, in his 999 Mercedes, but he's got a lot of company. Nagai sitting on his tail, Hiroaki Nagai, and pushing very hard indeed. You can see no damage on this side of the Mercedes, but we wouldn't if there was the contact with the Lamborghini was on the other flank, but it was so side by side. Let's take a look at the side. No damage that can be spotted on the Group M Racing Mercedes. Just to keep you up with what's happening in the GT4 class, it's number 17 leading the way, which is the car on class pole, George Chu from Taipei, leading from Jean-Marc Merlin. We heard from Frank Yu, Merlin's teammate, on the grid, so they're sitting pretty well placed. 2nd, very close to the lead in the GT4 class, but running well in the race today. Sandy Stuvik has lost several places in that Lamborghini. He's slipped back into 6th place overall behind Hiroaki Nagai in that Ferrari. And on this lap, Marchie Lee's really putting his foot down. And in fact, Darrell O'Young is responding in 2nd place. Aditya Patel running on his own in 3rd place, then Abbott and Nagai very close. And now Sandy Stuvik has got Devon Modell in the 2nd of the Craft Bamboo Racing Porsches, tucking in on his tail. You can see in the background of the shot there, Abbott and Nagai. Nagai's looking very good indeed for someone without a great deal of racing under his belt. He races in the Super Tycoon series over here in Japan, and clearly knows Suzuka rather better than I thought he possibly might have done, and I'm really impressed. Hunter Abbott has many seasons more racing under his belt. British Touring Car Championship, and now really branching out as he settles into GT3 racing. And in the background, another British racer, the 88 Porsche, tries the outside, doesn't work. So Sandy Stuvik in that Lamborghini stays in 6th position. Devon Modell pushing very hard in that black and white Porsche in 7th. Looks though it's only a matter of time. Just tucked in behind is Aidan Reed in the number 1 Lamborghini, and completing the top 10 We heard on the grid from Max Weiser, his teammate Zhan Jing is in 9th, and 10th place is Francisco Guedes. Gap between first and second. I thought it might start to come down. I still don't really know what the mistake was. Looking at One Craft Bamboo Racing, Porsche pushing very hard indeed. That's Devon Modell pushing the 66. Sandy Stuvik, Lamborghini, but his teammate Darrell Young, who started on pole, is starting to close on race leader Marchi Lee. The number 5 Audi still leading the way, but Darrell Young in the 99 Porsche getting closer and closer. It looks as though Nagai, as they went out of the hairpin, was really challenging Hunter Abbott's Mercedes. Yes, he most certainly is. No wonder those photographers lining up. Wonderful sweeping shot as the cars effectively turn into the start of Spoon, going past the Motul banners there. Now they're going to start, they've gone from a very fast right up over a very light crest. Now the cars start to dip down again and turn left, left, left. Push too hard as Sandy Stuvik did. They go out over the curb. Stuvik again over the curbs on the exit. Devon Modell in the Porsche, a much, much tidier exit. Now, leading the way in GT4, it's still George Chu, Jean-Marc Merlin not far behind. I think we're talking about 1.5 seconds. That's what GT4 looks like this year in the Blancpain GT Series Asia. It's Porsche Cayman shape, but there'll be many, many other shapes of cars as more manufacturers come in and enter this championship next year. And Frank Hugh, very, very positive about the numbers and hoping to have a separate grid. I quite like having the two together, but I understand his desire if the numbers get great enough. So George Chu from Taipei, very, very tidily driven. Super smooth, keeping clear of the black and white curbs, keeping the car on the black stuff as he should. Again, out of Spoon, using a tiny, tiny little bit of the curb, not enough to lose momentum. Marshall's enjoying a great view of the track from their elevated position. As you can see, all the GT4 runners literally all separated by the same margin of possibly 1.5 seconds. Good news at the front of the field, though. Marchi Lee, his lead was 1.6 seconds. It's now just 0.9, and look how close it is. The second place Darrell Young car bouncing over the curb, the first past the Degners. He's really got the scent in his nose. Marchi Lee, such a strong start, but he's going to have to really, really work. We're far, far away from getting towards those pit stops, but actually a much, much tidier exit from the hairpin there. So I think everything that Darrell Young had hauled back in, he's just lost by braking and going too deep into the hairpin. Yes, the gap, it's doubled again. So having chipped it down to 0.9 of a second, and by the time we just picked him up, possibly slightly less than that, mistake up at the hairpin. Maybe the Audi is just that bit more nimble than the Porsche around that part of the circuit, but certainly Marchi Lee stretched it out again. Down, out of Spoon they go, onto that curving back straight, if you will, the corner that leads all the way up to 130R, where it crosses over the little bit of the track just out of the second Degner. They've just gone past the crossover there, through 130R. Now let's see if this is a point as they approach the final chicane. Yes, again, you see the Porsche is now starting to close in again, so through the faster part of the circuit, it looks as though the Porsche is better placed. End of last lap, it was 0.9 of a second. And behind them, Hiroaki Nagai has gone past into 4th place. Hunter Abbott, yes, you can see the nose of the red Ferrari up into 4th place. Now here is the number 7 Audi, that is down in 15th place with Jeffrey Lee, but he'll be handing it over to Alessio Picariello, who is very, very good, who was fastest of all to take pole for the second race. Looking a little bit light on its toes there, and certainly bunching up behind is Tim Sugden in the second Group M Mercedes, and just being bottled up by it. He has got to get that Mercedes past. He's got the pace to do so. Jeffrey Lee, I don't think, will block. He's just working his way to the outside of the line. Tim Sugden in the grey and yellow Mercedes. I thought he was just going to wait to the last moment to dive out. Maybe not quite close enough. Maybe there are other points on the circuit where the Mercedes is better placed to pounce, but pounce it most certainly will. Jeffrey Lee, yeah, nice and tight line on the entry to the S's. Almost looks flat there, you can see the slight rise, but if you walk it, you know full well there's a real rise. It's a very steep bit of circuit, fantastic part of the circuit too. Jeffrey Lee in that 7 Audi. J-Fly by Absolute Racing still holding off the second of the Group M Mercedes, and if he looks in his mirrors, number 777, Takeshi Kimura, has as we heard from his teammate Kay Kozolina, has a huge selection of cars, but having a supercar is one thing. Getting out on a track and racing is quite another. Oh, looked like a move into the second deck that didn't quite work for Sim Sugden. Decided discretion was a better part of valour and tucked in behind, but you have to feel that Jeffrey Lee's time in this 14th place is really something that may not last a great deal longer. Again, very tentative, but he's in the middle of the track. Sugden can't respond, couldn't go inside, wasn't enough space, couldn't go around the outside of the hairpin. We'll have to see if he can have a really quick run through this long right-hander that feeds into Spoon. Long right, turns into long left. Keep an eye out too. A driver who is really rocketing is the driver in 4th place, Hiroaki Nagai in that ARN Racing Ferrari. A few places, about 10 places further ahead of this. Looks as though we're having another place change. Looks as though Sandy Stubik is being challenged and passed. No, sorry, that's further back. That's Andrew Harrianto being passed by Alex Au. Sorry, confused my Lamborghinis there. So number 6, Alex Au, has just gained a position. He's moved into 11th, and the Indonesian racer, Andrew Harrianto, dropping back 1 position. So places are changing, but up front, nothing's changing at all. It seems to stabilise the lead of the race. Went to 1.6 down to 1.9, sorry, 0.9 up to 1.3. It's going backwards and forwards. So here a 6 for 27. We've seen the place change, and Alex Au now starting to pull clear, having gained that position. Here is our overall leader, Marchie Lee, marching on. Fastest lap of the race was set by the car giving chase. There it is, the yellow and green Porsche, Daryl O'Young, fastest lap of the race last time around, 2 minutes. 4.5 second lap, almost 3 seconds off the qualifying, the fastest of the qualifying laps by anyone. Now Marchie Lee, as I said, was a little bit ragged in qualifying, rather desperate to put his car on the front. He qualified in 3rd in a stop-start session. But seems to be settling down again after that mistake at the hairpin a lap and a half ago from Daryl O'Young. Yeah, so Marchie Lee again going all the way out to the outside of the circuit through the Spoon curve again, just using the red and white part of the curbing, but you don't want to use the AstroTurf grass on the outside of that, because that can pull you towards the edge of the track. Now, what I just spotted on that long shot, Marchie Lee is about to start lapping the GT4 runners. Don't think he'll quite catch one before they get to the chicane, but he's about to catch the last place car in the class, which is Tong. But he's going to have to go the whole way around the outside. It hasn't interrupted his momentum. And if anything, I think on this lap he might have opened out the lead a little bit. Yes, he's gained 0.4 of a second now, flashing headlights in 2nd place. Daryl O'Young wants the driver of number 10 to know he's there. That's Byron Tong from Hong Kong. Didn't compromise the race leader. Slightly compromised. Daryl O'Young had to kick up the dirt on the inside. He was neither on the inside nor the outside, so I'm afraid that wasn't the most brilliant bit of help for Daryl O'Young, who we think does have the speed to catch the race leader, but every now and again he's compromised. And Aditya Patel, I said look out for the red Ferrari. Look how it's close. It was 2.5 seconds down not so long ago. And Hiroaki Nagai, well, I am super impressed with him in the ARN Racing Ferrari. Looking as though it's just been given some race stickers, hardly liveried like the others, just a metallic red. Obviously you can see it's a Series GT3 car with the wings on the tail, but the way it's being driven is very impressive until clouting the curves in the first part of the Degner. We saw Daryl O'Young doing that about 2 laps ago. It cost him momentum. But this is the battle for 3rd place. Aditya Patel working very hard indeed, coming under increasing pressure. There will be more GT4 runners for them to come across, not so far up the track, but just looking there, Aditya Patel got a big slide on, pushing very hard to get the power down as they exited the hairpin. And now what we're seeing behind them is that Hunter Abbott, who's running in 5th, he started 5th, is now starting to be challenged by Devon Modell. Devon's started on the row behind in the 2nd of the Craft Bamboo Racing Porsches, but just out of shot in the background you can see the Mercedes, and there is Devon Modell. So the 2 British racers in the field very close to each other. 98, we haven't seen so much for him, but he's the top place AM driver, Philip Ma. 98 is Arrows Racing, new to the championship this weekend, so welcome to Philip Ma and his fellow Hong Kong racer Jackie Yung, who'll take over in the 2nd part of the race. at the moment. Mar is just leading Rick Yoon, but Rick's in the Pro-Am class. Change of position, 77 and 5. So conditions are still absolutely perfect. The lead is now, it's really gone out. The last lap was not a good one from Darrell O'Young. We saw a little slight mistake, we saw him understeering a bit, but Marchie Lee is marching on, 3.2 seconds clear. Number 13 Audi. Jingzhu's son, he'll be handing over to Frankie Cheng Kong Fu. So again, that's a Pro-Am pairing, and obviously the second driver will be faster, and therefore it is thought that the cars with the greatest speed differential will be the first ones that make their mandatory pit stops, give the second driver, the pro driver if you will, the longest period possible in the car. Less than 10 minutes until the pit lane will be open. Still leading the way in the GT4 class, George Chu. He'll hand over to fellow Taiwanese racer Kyo Chang. And he's now starting to stretch his advantage, 3 seconds clear of Jean-Marc Merlin. But we know the Merlin car's got a very, very useful pairing with he and Frank Yu. Very well balanced pairing. Some driver pairs are not quite so well balanced. It seems to be settling down. When we can see 1, 2, 3. So it's a GT3 runner. It's our race leader. You can tell by the great big wing, trying to knit his way through past the second car in the GT4 class. Should pick it off before the chicane. And does. Lights flashing away. So now 2 GT4 runners between our race leader. That's him there, Marchie Lee. And he was nearly 3.3 seconds clear of Darrell O'Young, and I'd suggest it's gone out by another second or so. Wave blue flags on the starting gantry, or the marshal's positions next to it, to let those GT4 runners, including the class leader, number 17, to know to keep out of the way. But certainly for race leader Marchie Lee, he's delighted every time he can put another car between himself and the chasing Darrell O'Young. In fact, I thought the gap had gone out. It went down to 2.6 seconds between Marchie Lee and Darrell O'Young. There's then another 2.9 seconds back to Aditya Patel, but he is just over half a second advantage over Hiroaki Nagai. Wait a second, that's the 77 GT4 Porsche. That's been lapped. There is Aditya Patel in third place overall, getting a little bit bunched, dives around the outside at the top of the S's. And then the flash of metallic red, which is Nagai, makes his way up the inside. So that worked very well indeed, with 77 going towards the outside of the circuit. Jean-Marc Merlin doing a good job there of keeping out of the way, and that is not what Aditya Patel wanted to happen. But before they get to the second deck, there was nowhere for the GT4 class leader to go. So everything that was gained by the guy in that number 28 Ferrari was lost. He got chopped. He didn't want to dive up the inside. That would have led to tears and broken bodywork. So I'm glad he backed off. But look how close he is. And again, he gets the power down very smoothly indeed, as he accelerates out of the hairpin in that battle for third place. Now here's the race chaser. Here is Darrell O'Young, the driver who started that 99 Craft Bamboo Racing Porsche on pole position. Got jumped at the start, or soon after the start. Got the jump, then Marchie Lee caught him, sorry to be correct. But since then, he made a mistake at the end of that opening lap. Marchie Lee emerged to complete lap 1 in the lead of the race. He's remained there. The gap has seesawed backwards and forwards. 2.6 seconds between Marchie Lee leading the race in number 5 Audi and Darrell O'Young giving chase in the 99 Porsche. Aditya Patel, as I say, about 3 seconds behind, and way less than 3 seconds. It's more like 0.3 of a second between Patel in the 86 Audi and Nagai, who is really getting stuck into the chase in the red ARN Racing Ferrari. I think we'll see the gap between them will be a half a second again. 0.6 of a second, please forgive me the 10th. Importantly on that lap, Darrell O'Young lost out again. I know the traffic they've been getting past has caused that lead to bob up and down, but he's back to 3.5 seconds down on the race leader. The battle for third place is being a toughie though. Aditya Patel really getting stuck in, but not stuck onto the circuit. Well, I think that position will have to be handed back. So it was. Jeffrey Lee got ahead of Kimura. but did it by leaving the circuit, so he's had to hand it back. So Takeshi Kimura keeps the position, and Tim Sugden still bottled up behind that number 7 Audi. Surely his chance has got to come soon. Or will it come ahead of the pit window? Maybe if he simply is getting obstructed lap after lap, or unable to find a way back, not necessarily obstructed, but feeling his pace is being compromised, he may choose to be early into the pits to hand over to his young Dutch teammate Jules Simkowiak. Certainly what we saw before was 777 Lamborghini, some distance, 2 or 3 seconds clear. Jeffrey Lee in the 7 Audi. But now this is a three-way battle, not just a battle between Jeffrey Lee and Tim Sugden. Tim just keeping Jeffrey Lee guessing, attacking in a position you don't normally see drivers making moves on others. In fact, seems to have lost a little bit of ground accordingly. Through the first part of the Degner and the second pass, and Tim Sugden definitely got a far better run. Not much space up at the hairpin. You could go to the inside. Don't think Tim's thinking of that. He's more wanting to go slightly wide on the way and get the power down earlier. Get that mighty Mercedes AMG rumbling out of the hairpin. Now the punch should come in, and then it's a long, long arcing right. Go out of our sight. They then come into first part of Spoon Curve. The Lamborghini just holding on from the chasing duo. I don't think Tim's going to be close enough, but if he can get a good run through Spoon, get the power down, keep as much momentum as they go out of the corner and accelerate hard. Here we go. If it's good acceleration here, here's the final part of the corner. It looks like the previous part was the last part, but here's the last part. And if he's quickest out of that corner, and he most certainly is in the Mercedes, he should be able to get right into the toe of the Audi, almost alongside there. The track keeps bending to the left, and really be interesting to see what happens up at 130R as that trio of cars go in to what was a legendary corner on the circuit. Then a mistake there from Jeffrey Lee, got too close to the Lamborghini, went off the circuit at 130R. That would have put his heart in his mouth, and Tim Sugden didn't even have to make the passing manoeuvre. It was given to him, but it came because his pressure was so great coming out of Spoon Curve. He really, really got deep under the rear wing. And I honestly think that the Lamborghini is going to be picked off now. Tim Sugden said, thank you very much. And yes, he's got a very good run out of the final corner. Down the sloping start, finish straight. He goes down towards the first turn, and Kimura holding the inside line. That's the place to keep your car. So he said to Sugden, if you want to go round me, you've got to go round the outside. But that was an unfortunate moment for Jeffrey Lee. Luckily, he didn't drop it when he got down to 130R. Ran off the circuit, but there is a bit of runoff there. He was able to keep it on the straight and narrow as he returned. And now for Takeshi Kimura, huge amount of pressure from Tim Sugden. Race leader Marchi Lee, 3.3 seconds. It's sort of stabilising at that, and there's no more lap traffic to come up for the leader for a while. They'll start hitting the back of the GT3 bunch soon, but what I can tell you is we're getting very close to the pit stop window. In fact, it opens in 10 seconds time, so expect at the end of this lap the first of the pit stoppers to come in. They have to be stationary for 90 seconds. Now let me just tell you about several cars that have penalties. Extra time they have to serve in the pits, because if you win a race you get 7 seconds extra and 5 seconds if you come third. And that number 5 Audi leading the race was second last time out. It has 7 seconds extra, so 97 seconds will be the minimum time that car can have from pit entry to being static at the pit stop until it crosses the white line to come out of the pit lane. Darrell O'Young continues to give chase, lost a tenth of a second that time around. He, though, does not have a time penalty, so if he stays within 7 seconds, he can come out ahead of the race-leading car when he hands over the 99 Craft Bamboo Racing Porsche to Peter Lee. We heard from Peter down on the grid with Renai Matu before the start of the race. So it's 10-second extras in the pit for Hunter Abbott when he hands over to Maximilian Goertz, who's joined the championship this weekend. First pit visitor from a front runner. There's Rui Aguash just taking over from Francisco Guedes out of one of the two Spirit of Race Ferraris. And Darrell O'Young keeps pressing on. He knows if he can keep that race-leading number 5 Audi in sight, that's fine, because that's going to have an extra 7 seconds at a standstill. Now the midfield runners coming in, the car guy Lamborghini coming down, that will be handed over to Kay Cozzolino, another driver who we heard from when talking to Renai before the start. Boy, doesn't that stand out. Even on a dull day, that would glow. Kay getting round as fast as possible, but the thing about having a 90-second pit stop from entry to exit and time at the standstill in between. If you're quicker than that, even if you're 1 second too quick, you have to come in and be at a standstill for 1 second. If you're 10 seconds too quick, that really would be inaccurate. You'd have to come in and be 10 seconds at a standstill, but clearly you lose more than 10 seconds because you've got all the time coming in and going out of the pits to add to all that. So it really, really is important that your mechanic, team manager, whoever's on the stopwatch, keeps you at exactly the right amount of time at standstill. So the 999 Hunter Abbott car is no longer the Hunter Abbott car because it's now in the hands of Maximilian Goetz, German racer, one of many, many drivers in the Mercedes stable. And our race leader did come into the pit on that lap. Marchie Lee in to hand over that number 5 Audi to Sean Thong. There it is now. He came in a lap after the others. Just waiting to see if Darrell O'Young follows in. And no, he does not. So Darrell O'Young continues out on the circuit. A few drivers running across to the pit wall. They've just had that last check of conditions and they're told they'll be looking at track temperatures, wind directions. Drivers have to do all these things. Yes, a lot of them will only have half an hour or so in these cars, but any extra bit of information that will either help them or stop them from tripping themselves up, they will grab with both hands. So Darrell O'Young leads the race, but Marchie Lee is pitted from the lead. Majority of the front runners, however, are still going on round. There's the D-Station Racing Porsche, which started down on row 6. That hasn't come in yet. Satoshi Hoshino at the wheel. He will be handing that over soon to his teammate Seiji Ara, the Le Mans winner in the past 13 years ago. I can't believe it's that long ago. 21 for Audi Sport Team Go, that's GOH. One of the returning cars this weekend is that metallic blue at the front end and red at the rear end. That's the Ferrari of T2 Motorsports, so it's now been handed over by Greg Teo to David Chipto-Biantoro. Now the 18 Audi, oh dear, they got put back to the last of the GT3 runners down to row 12 for not paying attention to the flags during qualifying. That's a car from KCMG by Champion Racing, started by Rick Yoon, handed over to Martin Rump, young Estonian driver. And Rump is very quick indeed. So that's high in the order at the moment, inside the top 10, but has not made a pit stop. Of course, these can be jumbled in the 10-minute pit window. The other Group M Mercedes, that's the one that Tim Sugden will be handing over to Jules Simkowiak at the standstill in the pit stop. Yes, these pit stops could be made faster, but if all the teams know they have to be stationary for roughly 30 seconds, they've also timed that according to how long it takes to get to their pit from pit entry, and again how long on the way out until they get to that white line when they can release the pit lane speed limiter and get the power right down. So the teams have to do some maths through the course of the race. Now, the car guy Lamborghini was ahead of the Mercedes before the pit stops, and the number 7, well, Alessio Picariello has had a very good outlap in that number 7 Audi. Mercedes and the Lamborghini have come out in identical positions, but the real gain there was that Alessio Picariello, who took over the 7 Audi, has had a stormer of an outlap and is gaining positions hand over fist and will continue to do so. He's definitely one of the quickest drivers in the championship. He races quite a lot in Japan, so Suzuka, no strange piece of racing tarmac. See how he's using all the circuit and that little bit more. Pinch an inch here, pinch an inch there. Through the first Degner. Yeah, just keeping it on, so he's going to stretch away from that Lamborghini. His next target will probably change because we've still got a lot of the drivers to make their pit stops. Well, when I say a lot, of the top 10 or so, 6 have yet to come in. And they've still got 4 minutes to do so. Darrell O'Young, our race leader, he is one of those that owes us a pit stop. And then, as I mentioned a short while ago, he'll be handing over that 99 Porsche to Peter Lee. Alessio Picariello on pole for tomorrow's race. So fastest of the pro drivers, if you will, in qualifying. Is going to be picking his way up the order. Will get into the top 10, possibly. But just waiting for the screens to update. Darrell O'Young still leading the way. Jules Simkowiak slightly dropping back from Kei Cozzolino. There's the 19 Audi in the pit lane. KCMG, one of the Japanese crew cars. And the Otto Takeda handing over to Takuya Shirasaka. see, the pit stop can be quite orderly. No safety issues, they don't have to rush. Sean Thong now at the wheel of that number 5 Audi that led the first half of the race, getting a bit twitchy, keeps it tidy, or tidies it up more to the point through the first part of the day, and tidy through the second part. Car in the background, new livery this weekend for the number 2 FFF racing team, Lamborghini crew. That's Yu Lin, and who's taken over from Junhan Zhu. Great livery, actually. I do rather like that number 5 Audi. It's clearly going very well indeed this weekend here at Suzuka. 3 very different circuits, starting at Sepang, the wide open spaces, as designed by Herman Tilke. In fact, one of the cars in the race, the Milestone Racing Audi, you'll see it in the dark, sort of metallic blue one, is sponsored by Tilke Circuits. But that opening circuit at Sepang, lots of space, long straights down to hairpins, and some great S's as well. Very, very different circuit, the Chang International Circuit at Buriram. And then you come here, and this is proper old school circuit. Race leader in, that is Darryl O'Young, handing over the 99 Porsche to his teammate from Craft Bamboo Racing, which is Peter Lee. You see the team manager with the stopwatch and the radio. He's waiting, counting down. You can just see his lips moving as he was probably saying 3, 2, 1. Peter Lee waiting to get to the white line. When he gets there, he's put the power down now. He's just gone past the traffic light, past the pit exit point, down the filter lane. And you know what? He's come out ahead of that number 5 Audi. That was absolutely crucial. So the last few laps that were run by Darryl O'Young were very useful indeed. Don't forget, though, the other car did have 7 extra seconds at a standstill, so did just enough to come out. So they were good laps, but then again, there was a 7-second bonus, if you will. So, in fact, no criticism at all of Sean Thong. Fleetingly forgot that they had the extra 7 seconds. That's why the number 5 Audi that was ahead before the pit stops is now behind. But for how much longer will it be behind? Peter Lee, trying to get up to speed, is being harried left and right. Sean Thong, I don't think, around the outside. Oh, what's the contact there? You couldn't quite tell from that front-on point, but certainly the Porsche driver, Peter Lee, bouncing over the curbs of the Audi was so close behind. And now what you've got Mitch Gilbert in 86 tucked in behind. There's our first 3 after the pit stops. Very, very close together. I'd say a second and a half between them. Just looking to see if everybody's pitted. Yes, they have. Pit window, in fact, it doesn't close for another 40 seconds, but it matters not. Everybody has made their pit stops. 28 cars started the race. Delighted to report still 27 on board, but what was a very close first, second and third battle is becoming less and less close, because we're having taken the lead, is that Sean Thong is pulling clear. There he is going out of the spoon curve, the long corner onto the back straight, and now Peter Lee has got Mitch Gilbert for company. Behind, they've also got one of the Porsches going very well. I think that is probably Devon Modell, number 88, but he started the race. Another mistake. We saw a mistake on the opening lap of the race from the 99 Porsche at the chicane. Another one there, which will allow the number 5 Audi to pull clear. What's happened? Modell cannot be in the car because he started the race. That's Nick Foster tucked in behind it. The black and white Porsche almost can't see it behind number 86. Foster, the only driver in this race who competed in the Memorial 24 hours last weekend, so his sleep pattern's pretty much wrecked for a while. Throw in a bit of jet lag coming over from France. The Australian racer, well, he doesn't seem to be doing too badly on it. Clearly, a bit of sleep deprivation does him. Well, most importantly, clearly is fit enough to cope with it, but he's the driver third in that grouping, so it's second, third and fourth. It's the 2 Craft Bamboo Porsches, 99 and 88, and in between them is Mitch Gilbert, getting slightly frustrated by Peter Lee. It was that moment of, was it contact, or certainly very near contact, as they went into Degner 1 a lap ago. But now Peter Lee has settled down, and all along Sean Thong is pulling clear in that number 5 Audi. Audi Hong Kong entry, which you can understand why it's well placed in the championship. It's second overall, pairing of Thong and Marchi Lee. 5th, 3rd, 2nd, 2nd. That's a sequence that could quite easily end up in a win this afternoon at Suzuka. And honestly, I feel that when you look at the circuits that the inaugural Blancpain GT Series is attending, the one you really, if you were going to pick one place to win, Suzuka would be that place. It's that little bit more tricky than anywhere else they visit, and it's such a long-standing circuit, a favourite of so many Formula One drivers, even now, maybe even more so now, that much as it's prestigious to win at Silverstone and Monaco, the classical circuits, to win at Suzuka is very, very special indeed. Lights flashing from Peter Lee, no lights flashing from the Audi that's giving chase, which is Mitch Gilbert. More GT4 traffic up ahead. It's Peter Lee at the front of the queue. Now Gilbert is starting to come under increasing pressure from Foster. Foster renewing his challenge down the back straight through 130R. Yellow on the tail, that's number 89. The GT4 Porsche just up ahead of them, and it's now in the hands of Ringo Chong from Singapore. He keeps very, very well out of the way indeed through the final corner, doesn't obstruct that grouping. Now the race leader getting slightly obstructed, tucked in behind the 98 Arrows Racing Porsche from Jackie Young, new to the championship this weekend. Battle for second is tight, but the battle for third is tighter, because Mitch Gilbert having to use his mirrors more than looking ahead of him, as Nick Foster is getting very, very tight indeed. He's trying inside, he's trying outside, cannot wrest third place from Mitch Gilbert, but all it needs is a back marker that slightly obstructs one of the cars in this grouping. You certainly feel that Nick Foster will be able to profit from that. And suddenly Mitch Gilbert almost tripped over the back of Peter Lee. Peter Lee dives inside Jackie Young. Young stays wide. Was this the moment that Foster was able to catch and pass Gilbert? No, it wasn't, but very well done from Jackie Young to keep out of the way. Very difficult corner. It runs away from you the first part of the Degners, but he led second, third and fourth all the way through. Now it looks as though Nick Foster is going to have a better exit from the hairpin, but Gilbert gets the power down so well in that Audi. It really is able to skitter, looks very light on its toes. Well, let's hear action down in the pits. Who led the first half of the race? Marchie Lee.
Okay, so I'm talking with Marchie. You had a great start.
Yeah, it was really good start. I think in the start, I passed TTA. He was outside, so I just followed Darryl, and then the first lap, I think Darryl made a big mistake, so I passed him in the chicane, and then I just keep my head down and try to put a gap. Successfully put a bit of gap, because we have 7 seconds of the penalty last race success of the pit stop time. So now I handle the car to Sean. I hope he do his part, and I hope he expecting we have a podium this time or win.
Okay, there you go. Good luck, guys. Over to you in commentary.
Thank you very much, Renai. It was good there that Marchie pointed out the pit stop penalty times. It's worth adding that he had 7 seconds extra to stand still. Aditya Patel, the 86 car that's there in the meat in the sandwich between those two Craft Bamboo Porsches, he had an extra 5 seconds. The Ferrari in the background, an extra 7 seconds, which you get for not being in the previous round of the championship. And the 999 Mercedes is the next car but 2. 7th overall was 10 seconds extra before being handed over. Not that Mercedes, that's the 888 one. That's Jules Simkowiak trying his hardest to keep with or maybe even pass Kay Cozzolino in that car guy, that lurid Lamborghini, and looks as though Simkowiak has got the pace to catch into the chicane, but Cozzolino's raced here so many times, this Italian-Japanese racer, that he knows where the bumps are. You see many of the drivers who are less experienced getting their cars unsettled, but good exit from the final corner for the 888 Mercedes, and Jules Simkowiak really trying to put the power down as they go down the hill, use the slipstream, but that Lamborghini very, very good. In fact, at the end of the straight, maybe by dint of braking a little bit later, Cozzolino was deep into the first curve, but held it all together, kept the Mercedes behind him, but very entertaining. And to be honest, all it takes for a fabulous race is 2 cars fighting together, but we can provide you far more than that. How about 3 that you could cover with a blanket? A little bit further down the top 10. In fact, that's 16th, 17th and 18th. And it's Seiji Ara, the more winner in the 47D Station Racing Ferrari, being pushed by Frankie Cheng and Martin Rump, all very quick drivers. Of course, they're co-drivers, they're teammates with the AM drivers in these pairings, and have left them some way down the order, but this is a very quick trio, and the fact it's fighting for 16th, 17th and 18th position shows how difficult things are. 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, we get them all in one shot as they approach 130R. So that's Peter Lee, Mitch Gilbert, Nick Foster and Kuta Sasaki. I really tip Sasaki to be a star in this race, and he's doing precisely what it says on the tin, catching this battle, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. But I must say Peter Lee is now settling down. But what's happened in the past lap is that Mitch Gilbert has been passed by Nick Foster. Off cams for us. I didn't spot that, but so we've got Craft Bamboo Porsches in second and third, but they're 8.8 seconds down on Sean Thong. Sean Thong in that number 5 Audi, just able to pull ever further clear with each lap. He's not fighting anybody, which certainly helps, whereas Peter Lee is having to really keep an eye on his mirrors. But he's got a new challenger now, his own teammate, Nick Foster. Still leading the way in GT4 is number 17. It's now Keo Chang who took over from George Chow in the Taiwan Top Speed Racing Porsche. It's the black and green one. And his advantage, much like the race leader in the overall battle, 8 seconds or so over the second car. In GT4, which is pretty much as it has been since the start of the race, it's the 77 car with Frank Yu, the driver we heard speaking before the race with such enthusiasm about GT4. We heard him talking to Renai. But it doesn't look at the moment, looking at their lap times last time around. In fact, Frank Yu is starting to take chunks. He gained 3 seconds on the last lap alone. So that 17 Porsche with George Chang won't have it all his own way in the run-in to the end of the race. 17 minutes remaining on the clock before the checkered flag can be proffered. 17 minutes precisely. Now they've got some of the GT3 runners in. Someone's had a little moment, a lock-up, a kiss of the dust on the outside of the circuit, more likely on the exit of the second curve. This wonderful battle, yes, it might be for 16th place. Ara, Cheng and Rump, very, very good drivers. Cheng in the middle car, you can see Tilke on the bonnet, so sponsorship from the world's leading, or one of the world's leading circuit designers. The man who's had the company that's had the rights pretty much to Formula One's new circuits over the past, well, if I say a decade, it's almost 2 decades now. Wonderful, wonderful racing. The Porsche definitely bottling up those 2 Audis. But Seiji Ara has many, many years on the clock, so much experience. Started racing back in 1994. I think he started at the end of the previous season when he was 20. In that 94 season, he became the Japanese VW Cup champion. But you didn't know that. But his most important result by far was winning the 2004 Le Mans 24 Hours with Audi Sport Team Japan, or Audi Sport Japan Team Go to give it its correct name, with Dindo Capello and Tom Christensen. But right now he's concentrating on the here and now. The here is holding off Frankie Cheng, who in turn is trying to keep the Estonian racer Martin Rump tucked in behind. Rump's had a better exit from Spoon Curve onto that curving back straight, the secondary straight on the circuit that leads to 130R. No one behind them, a few cars up. Well, no one for some while behind, but look at the gap behind them. The next car that should come around that corner should be Samson Chan, who's sharing with Andrew Harrianto, sharing the X1 Motorsports Lamborghini, but he's some distance back. And number 7 is really, really getting a fly. That's Alessio Picariello. Picking his way back up, but he's had a second. No, I know why he's on his own, because he's just made a second pit stop. Now, what if there's been a drive-through penalty? I'll tell you what, if there was, that would probably be for being slightly too quick in the pit lane. I mentioned if you come in and out of the pits in under 90 seconds, or in the case of the number 7 crew, just trying to see if they had a time penalty to add. No, they didn't. That must be what's happened, because it's put Picariello, he was right at the sharp end of the field. It's put him back to 15th place, so that was a costly slip-up. In fact, it looks like there's another car in the pit lane serving a second visit to the pits, and I think it's Frankie Cheng. So the middle of that battle, we had Frankie Cheng in that blue 13 Audi also making a second visit to the pits. A walk of shame, if you will. Number 10 and 11, they're battling for last place, or trying not to finish last. There are 5 GT4 Porsche Caymans. Number 11 really being thrown around by Terence C with some aplomb, but he has to, because he doesn't want to be 5th last in the GT4 class. 14 minutes until the end of the race. There's our race leader. 11.385 seconds cleared. Sean Thong looking very, very good indeed for the number 5 Audi crew, the Audi Hong Kong crew. Started by Mark Lee, worked his way from 3rd to 2nd on the run to the first corner, then took the lead of the race, as Marchie mentioned to Renai down in the pits just now after his pit stop, that he was then gifted the lead when Darryl O'Young made a slip-up around the chicane at the end of the opening lap, and the gift was taken with both hands by Mark Lee, who then pulled 3 or so seconds clear. Don't forget, this car had a 7-second extra time at the standstill in the pit stop, and yet here it is leading the race and pulling clear. Another driver we've heard from. Bodywork loose on that 888 Mercedes, Jules Simkowiak at the wheel, but Max Weiser, we heard from him before the start of the race, making progress. He's just gained a position up to 9th, but he has just set, not so many laps ago, the fastest lap of the race. So as I said, a lot of these pairings, certainly the quicker driver is the one who's second into the car, but the difference between the first and second drive is very different between some of the pairings. Some are really, really evenly balanced, and others definitely have a favour towards one driver that's greater than the other crews have, and I'd suggest that Max Weiser is really benefiting from a good start from Xinjiang, but able to build on it because he has so much experience of Suzuka. So let's have a little look at replay. Oh dear, round the outside goes the car guy, Lamborghini. Now, is this where we had bodywork damage to the 888? No, it's already, you can see the front right corner of the 888 Mercedes, who gets very, very close. Well, that's as close as you can be. Well, that was unfortunate, that replay. You can see now the bodywork had already been slightly damaged on the 888 Mercedes. Then it was made worse when the 777 Lamborghini came in for an extra pit stop. That's what caught them out. That's Kei Cozzolino, clearly the pit stop when he took over the 777 car from Takeshi Kimura. The pit stop must have been too fast, so I'll tell you the cars that have been into the pits for an extra stop. The number 1 Lamborghini, that's had an extra stop. The 777 Lamborghini, the one I just talked of, that has 2. The number 7, don't want a 7 in your number, do you? Because then the 7 Audi, an extra pit stop, and 2 more further down. Oh, with Seiji Ara, he had to come back in, having just taken over that 47 Porsche, and likewise Frankie Cheng. So that has really rejigged the middle order of the race. 17 still leading the way in the GT4 class, Keo Chang. But what we're seeing is the hunt, it's closing down. It was 8 seconds, it's down to 4 seconds because Frank Yu is closing in the 77 Porsche. 17 leading the GT4 class. And in the background of the shot is the chasing car with Frank Yu, both about to go up the start-finish line. It was 4 seconds last time. What's it down? 1.7 seconds. A very, very good lap. One of a series of great laps from Frank Yu in the number 77 Challenger. That's from Craft Bamboo Racing. So with their GT3 runners running 2nd and 3rd, and every chance that they might take victory in the GT4 class. Today, here at Suzuka, things looking very, very strong for Craft Bamboo Racing. But still, it's Taiwan Top Speed Racing leading the GT4 class. There it is, leading the class number 17. Lot of traffic, it's tightening up. Oh, we've had a change of position because we've now got Nick Foster has gone into 2nd place. That's pushed Peter Lee in the yellow and green Porsche just ahead of this grouping. There's the yellow and green car, that's fallen to 3rd. Mitch Gilbert in 4th. Kuta Sasaki is in 5th, so that's been a very good lap indeed for Nick Foster, up into 2nd place. The yellow car down to 3rd now with Peter Lee. Mitch Gilbert in 86 Audi in 4th, and Kuta Sasaki closing in on the pair of them. And who's catching all of them? Maxi Goetz, he's made up a lot of time in that 999 Mercedes. Don't forget, they had 10 seconds extra added to their pit stop because of their victory in the 2nd of the 2 races at Buriram in Thailand last time out. There is our battle. 3rd, 4th, 5th is the Ferrari, 6th is the Mercedes. And the car they've got to pass is the T2 Motorsports Ferrari, which hopefully will stay out of the way. Oh, it's doing a very good job. 2 abreast around a car they're lapping. That was a little bit brave, but Mitch Gilbert has now also passed Peter Lee, so the last, not even a lap, has been rotten for the Chinese racer in that 99 Porsche. You know, it's not beyond imagination. In the next lap, he could lose another couple of positions. Gilbert is now past him. Peter Lee in the 99 Porsche has now got Sasaki right up his tail. And behind the 2 of them is Maxi Goetz in the 999 Mercedes. He is the fastest of that lot. He's closed in on them. And then Rui Aguas in the silver Spirit of Race Ferrari. If there's much more traffic, he will be onto their tail. Aguas having passed one of the newcomers this weekend, Nick Costa, on that lap to take 7th position. So leading the race, Sean Thong, 14.6 seconds clear. It's his to throw away with 8 and a bit minutes remaining. Second place now, Nick Foster. Third, Mitch Gilbert. Fourth, Peter Lee. Who said GT3 racing doesn't have overtaking? In fact, no one said that. That's the whole essence of GT3 and GT4 racing. And here at this wonderful circuit, if you pass, it's an achievement, but there are places that it can be done. That's why the drivers love coming here, because the corners in certain parts follow quickly, one after another. Slip up at one, you lose the momentum and you'll be pounced upon. But a driver who's about to do some pouncing, perhaps down the start-finish straight, is Maxi Goetz. Can he get close enough to Kuta Sasaki in the Ferrari? I fancy not on this lap, but all along he's closing in. 86 Audi, Mitch Gilbert in third, Peter Lee down to fourth. The lap before, holding on to fourth at the moment, but if Sasaki wasn't having to be pushed so hard by Maxi Goetz's Mercedes, I fancy he too would close onto the 99 Porsche. Oh, bit of a slip up there through the first part of the S's from the Ferrari. That allows the Mercedes to close in a little bit more. And certainly that doesn't hurt Peter Lee. That's possibly given him a bit more breathing space in fourth place. Fifth and sixth, super close. And behind them, catching the two, closing in. In fact, it took 1 and a bit seconds. Rui Aguas in the silver Ferrari. It could soon be a 5-car train. Just coming up through the top of the S's. They start to go over the top of the hill, bend left, and then turn right to the first of Degners. That Spirit of Race Ferrari is on the chase, coming in the background, almost blending. His colour scheme does not stand out, and on a dull day, it almost blends with the barriers in the background, but certainly the driving style doesn't blend at all. It's very, very quick indeed. Spirit of Race Ferrari looking good on its tyres at the moment, and Rui Aguas has been racing Ferraris for so long, he really gets them. Oh, he's closed right in. But who's faster than Rui Aguas? Well, I tell you what, his teammate, because they got past Costa. Max Wieser is closing in the second of the Spirit of Race Ferraris. We could have 6 cars running almost nose to tail in this battle from third place backwards. What a race here at Suzuka. Championship, well, not championship leader, but Sean Thong will be the championship leader after this race, because he's the race leader, sitting on a very tidy margin with 6 and a bit minutes remaining in that number 5 Audi Hong Kong Porsche. Porsche, what am I talking about? Audi Hong Kong, there's a clue in the name. So Audis have enjoyed victory in the opening race, but it was the OD Racing Ferrari that's running around in third place. There's been 2 Ferrari wins since then, and then Mercedes. So Audi look as though they're going to get back onto the top step of the podium here in the first of 2 races on Blancpain GT Series. First visit, its inaugural season, to Suzuka. This was a car that I was concerned was being thrown around a bit with a bit too much abandoned in qualifying, but they qualified well enough. Qualified third for this race, worked their way round with 7 seconds extra at a standstill. With 5.5 minutes remaining, the gap is out to 40.755 seconds. And I must say, Sean Thong is driving very, very smoothly indeed. Does not have to take risks. And now what he's done is catch up onto the tail. There he goes past the second car in the GT4 class, and within seconds he'll be on the tail of the class leader. Coming to the second, Degner. Tucks in behind, should be ahead by the time they get to the corner. He doesn't wait even for the kink before the hairpin. Nips his way around Keo Chang. Peter Lee still running in fourth place, spreading out a little bit. Oh gosh, it's the battle behind now that's really tightened up. Sasaki, Maxi Goetz and Rui Aguas. Ferrari, Mercedes, Ferrari, and then Lamborghini in the background. That, in fact, the 66 was Nicolas Costa, the Brazilian driver. Sorry, he's still ahead. Oh, Ferrari's 2x2 round the hairpin. Was that a change of position? Rui Aguas trying. Yes, he's made it around the outside of Sasaki, but Sasaki also lost out to Maxi Goetz. So suddenly the Japanese ARN Ferrari teams lost 2 positions. I think that's the classic case of when one car is very close to another and they fail to get past, they lose momentum, and the car that's tucked in behind then dives past them. Then still trying to scrabble for position at that point on the exit of the hairpin. Another place was lost. So Sasaki was looking good, not so good now. 2 places lost to Maxi Goetz and Rui Aguas. GT4, it's as close as can be. It was about 1.7 seconds last time around. It's far less than that. As Chang leads you onto the start-finish straight, they've got one of the Lamborghinis blasting past, but it's GT4 runners coming down, crossing the start-finish line now. Chang leading by 0.497 of a second. Let's call it half a second. Now, can Chang hang on? You certainly feel Frank Yu has got the momentum with him. Has he got the racecraft to nip his way past, find a gap. Frank Hugh hitting the curb on the inside first part of the S's. Wasn't possibly the best line to be had up through there. You've got to try and keep it as smooth as you possibly can. You don't want the car hitting the curbs, coming off the surface, coming back down. A, it can damage the car, but B, you can then hit one of the bumps, unsettle the car. You want to keep it as smooth as possible. Right behind them, we've got Nick Foster trying to lap them in the 88. Porsche goes around the inside. That's running in second place. 14.4 seconds now behind the race leader. Yes, it's come down slightly, but with just under 3 minutes remaining, he's not going to haul in the rest. Might chip off a second or two, but second place looks quite secure for Foster. Oh dear, this could be the point at which we have a change for the lead in the GT4 class. A big mistake there from Chang, leading the class, running wide over the curbs and up the inside, surely. Yes, no, almost backs off, but Frank Hugh said, well, I will take it. And Mitch Gilbert dives up the inside of the two of them. He is running third in that 86 Audi, picking up some very good championship points, and then it's very close indeed behind Peter Lee, Maxi Goetz, Rui Aguas, Sasaki, Costa and Weezer. 5 or 6 cars covered by about 2.5 seconds. 86 though, relatively safe in third place. He's about 1 and a bit seconds clear of the gaggle. As long as he doesn't slip up, looking very good indeed. So with 2 minutes on the clock, Sean Thong carries on building on the advantage that was handed to him by Marchi Lee, and I must say Sean has put in a really strong run. Phoenix Racing crew helping the Audi Hong Kong crew and also the Audi R8 LMS Cup crew in the number 6 Audi. The Audi number 5 is the one that's winning the race. The 6 car is down in 10th place in the hands of Alex Yu. So this is the one they're focusing on. Victory would put them into the championship lead. They started the race just 2 points down behind Hunter Abbott. Abbott will be picking up the points, we think, at the moment. 5th place. 5th place pays 10 points, but it's 25 for victory. So the Audi Hong Kong crew will be very, very pleased with the first race here at Suzuka. Just over a minute to go, so it'll be this lap and the next one. I think, just trying to work out how much the lap has passed. I think they'll just have time for the number 5 Audi to start one more lap. In fact, they could afford to back right off with a 15.7 second advantage over the chasing car. So clearly Nick Foster lost a bit of ground that lap. I think the race is on now. I think the checkered flag will be out at the end of this lap. Now here's the battle for 4th place. Peter Lee, Maxi Goetz in the Mercedes, and then look how many cars are tucked behind. Rui Aguas, Kuta Sasaki, Nick Costa and Max Weezer. Oh, wow, how close is that? 4th through to 9th, covered by not very much. And then they come across the 27 Lamborghini. That's a lap down in the hands of Samson Chan. Who will gain from the obstruction? It won't be intentional obstruction. Going around the outside past the Motul banners there. Oh, wow. But still Peter Lee holds on. Great, great pressure. Now a little push, a little kiss, I think that's called in motor racing. A tap, I'm here. Oh, they're weaving left and right. The Lamborghini's in the way a little bit. Who is gaining? Rui Aguas doesn't lose position to Kuta Sasaki, but now he's really attacking Maxi Goetz. That helps Peter Lee. Here's the checkered flag. Here's the number 5 Audi, beautifully picked up there. 15.7 seconds clear at the start of the lap, but at the end it doesn't matter. If it was half a second, it's still victory. Oh, well, you can see a bit of smoking and steaming. Is that from the nose of the Mercedes? So Maxi Goetz has been damaged with that clash. Yes, he's lost 2 positions to the 2 Ferraris. And Rui Aguas looks so he's trying to take off Peter Lee. Oh, one of the back markers couldn't get out of the way, so he stopped and made it even tougher to get into the chicane. Peter Lee should hold on. Mitch Gilbert comes through in 3rd place behind Nick Foster. 4th place will go to the car that started on pole, Peter Lee. And any more positions going to be lost by that 999 Mercedes. Yes, Max Weezer goes round as well. And here's the GT4 battle. 77 we saw get past 17 to take the lead. And so there it goes to Frank Hugh. Keo Chang takes 2nd place. So great run from both of those drivers in the GT4 class. And still the GT3 runners come through. That's Alex Jung coming through to 10th place there in the number 6 Audi, just ahead of the T2 Motorsports But that was a very, very strong race from the number 5 Audi pairing. Started by Marchi Lee, finished in style by Sean Thong. In fact, his advantage 16.5 seconds. But the battles behind were absolutely fantastic. It's worth pointing out that that 39 car we're looking at now gained positions on the final lap. Max Wieser. There's the checkered flag still being waved for the back runners. Greasy flag surface, yellow and red. The greasy circuit flag being shown. So maybe liquid was dropped by the Mercedes. Maxi Goetz fell down to 7th place at the end. Rui Aguas was the main recipient of the largesse there from the Mercedes, having damaged its nose, because Rui Aguas went up to 5th. Kuta Sasaki back up to 6th, and Maxi Goetz lost position down to 7th. And was very close to losing another position on the line. So that was a race that seesawed backwards and forwards, with a few of the front runners, well actually the people just outside the tail of the top 10 who had to come and make a second pit stop. They will rue their inability to time their pit stops accurately, but there were no mistakes at all from one of the crews that had to add extra time to the pit stop. 7 seconds extra, that could have flattered a lot of teams, scuppered their chances. But Marchi Lee started from the outside, well, he started from the inside of the second row, 3rd overall, and took the lead in the first stage of the race. And then great pit stop from the Audi Hong Kong crew, handed over to Sean Thong, who had a bit of competition when he got onto the circuit, but then he built and built and built the lead. 16.5 seconds at the end of the race. So the first part of the equation here at Suzuka, we know the outcome. The race order at the end was 5, Sean Thong, 88, Nick Foster, and Mitch Gilbert, 86, in 3rd place. There is our race winner, 16.5 seconds clear. And the top 4 places filled by Silver Crews. Then come the top Pro-Am runners. Oh, huge excitement. Marchi Lee liked that almost as much as Sean Thong did. So great applause and much happiness down in the pit lane there. So, and it's so far clear that Nick Foster hasn't come into view yet in the 2nd place. Craft Bamboo Racing. Entry the other runners now being put back into the paddock. There is the 2nd place Porsche and the 3rd place Audi, with Mitch Gilbert starting to climb out. Parc Fermé stickers being put on the windscreen, just to remind them. And just want to pick out the top AM runner. Back in 17th place, it was Samson Chan in the end. So in fact, all the AM runners finished 17th place down to 21st. So they have their race within the race, but the overall race, of course, belonged to the number 5 Audi crew, and what a run they had. So people the length of the pit lane, walking up the sloping pit lane towards the cars as they sit in Parc Fermé. But when we get to look at the results, it will show that it was a clear win for the number 5 Audi crew. 16.5 seconds. That's not a bad achievement, particularly with 7 seconds extra at a standstill during their pit stop. But importantly, they didn't panic. They didn't try and make it up by going too soon, because that would have earned them a 2nd visit to the pits. 1 hour of racing, a huge amount of action. Well, what a race. Marchi Lee started it off. Sean Thong finished the job.
What a race. Finally, that P1, you guys.
Yeah, I'm really happy about the result. And when I saw Marchi got a good start off the line, and he was actually P1 by first lap, and when he slowly built a gap, all I'm thinking in the mind is, no.
Why you always do this in interview?
Overtake the car and get into P1, yes, then all my focus in my stint is basically just to maintain the position and not make any mistake and try to build a bigger gap, which I did. And yeah, thank you, the team, everyone who made it possible, and this guy.
Marchi, yeah, you had a bit of a hand in it, didn't you?
Yeah, well, it was all good. The race and the rhythm is good. You know, I tried to be more patient on the beginning, because I think Daryl in the 2nd lap and 3rd lap he tried to push back, but yeah, you know, I mean, I just hold on and no mistake. I think the car is fantastic. The team did a very good job. We managed the tires very good. The priority tires is very good for here, so all good.
Okay, enjoy that. Congratulations.
Yep.
Back to you in the commentary, Bruce.
Thank you, Renai. I love the camaraderie between the drivers. Even, what do you mean I built the lead slowly? And also good to see Alex Young coming in to congratulate them in the background there. But a really, really impressive win. They're not just race winners, they're now the championship leaders. With 25 points for victory, that has really given them a massive boost. And let's see what they can achieve tomorrow. But let's hear from the second place crew. Renai's down with them, and Nick Foster will be very happy.
Congratulations, Nick. I'll start with you. You came over the line. Come on.
Yeah, epic race. So yeah, it's a good battle in the heat at Suzuka, such a mega track. So Dev started P7, jumped a few cars. It's obviously quite tough when you're following around here at such high speed. So he pitted, did a really good job. Pace was good. And yeah, I came out in somewhere, had to pass a couple of cars. Once we cleared them, we had mega pace in the Craft Bamboo Porsche. So yeah, from our side, it's awesome. Come home with a nice podium, and hopefully we can go one better in the next one.
Okay, Deborah, your turn. Your first outing in Blancpain GT Series Asia.
Yeah, it started well. Brought the car in relatively cleanly for Nick. I think we came in P5, P6, and it was up to Nick to make up a few more places at the end, which he did well.
Yeah, congratulations. Enjoy that.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Okay, back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Renai. And for the eagle-eyed people, Nick Foster was wearing Frank Hughes overalls, a spare set. I noticed it said Frank on his belt, but great to have Nick and Devon Modell racing. Clearly, they really hit the ground running with that second place here at Suzuka. They'll be delighted with that. It's been a good day for Craft Bamboo Racing. But what a race it was. So victory for Audi, second place for Porsche, third place for Audi. Mitch Gilbert finished the job that was started by Aditya Patel.
Whoa. A little bit of a drama happening over here. The car is moving. Okay, so Mitch, you came over the line. Talk to me about your race.
Yeah, it was tough. It was really tough. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be as hard as it was. I was a bit tough that we came out where we did. We came out just a little bit, a couple of seconds, maybe too far behind. And then after that, managing the traffic and all that was a disaster. It was a nightmare. I've never had it so bad. I think I lost the position because of traffic, and someone gained on me because of traffic. So it was a disaster. But in the end, it was a pretty fun race. But I'm happy it's over because I was starting to struggle quite a bit at the end. But yeah, I mean, we finished third again this year. Every race we finished on the podium, so can't really complain.
On the podium, that's consistent though, Aditya.
Yeah, like Mitch said, every race on the podium. The only time we didn't finish on the podium is when we didn't finish. Yeah, I didn't get off to the best start. Starting on the front row, I was hoping to stay in the top two for as long as I could, try to take the lead, but I had a really bad start. And then after that, it was a bit tough to keep the pace with Marchi and Daryl. But yeah, in the end, it's good. Mitch put in a good show to bring us to the podium, and here we are.
I'll look forward to race 2 then. Back to you, Bruce.
Thank you very much, Renai, and certainly the 86 crew were the hardest working in the race. They seem to be in traffic, either trying to pass them or trying to overtake all race. So good points for them in third place. They were third in the championship when they came in. I think that's moved them into second overall. But I think it's worth reiterating. Victory for Sean Thong and Marchi Lee in the number 5 Audi. A really, really strong showing for them. They take the maximum 25 points. But with the newcomers in the championship, Nick Foster and Devon Modell, second place. And third, great to hear from those top crews, and of course for Daryl O'Young, who started on pole position. His car came home in the hands of Peter Lee in fourth place overall. They were battling throughout, but a few little slip-ups there cost them rather dear. But making great progress was the 38. Ferrari up into fifth place at the end. Rui Aguas, so strong in traffic, almost gained a top 4, which isn't bad, starting from row 6. So, Pro-Am victory went to that number 5, number 38 Ferrari in 5th place overall. Of course, we got overall silver-silver combinations where you got 2 pro drivers, then Pro-Am, and the best of those pairings was Rui Aguas with Francisco Guedes, fellow Portuguese racer, who's made a real splash on his arrival in the championship. Best of the AMs. It's been fun here at Suzuka, almost podium time. We've already seen interviews with the top 3 finishers overall, and just waiting for them to come up and take the applause of a good crowd here. And of course, we've got another race tomorrow, slightly earlier in the day on the Sunday. Everyone wants to race at Suzuka, but even more than that, everybody wants to win at Suzuka. And for Marchi Lee and Sean Thong, now the championship leaders, first winners on our first race here at Suzuka, and they will deserve all the applause they can get. So we look forward to you joining us tomorrow. And from me, Bruce Jones, it's been my pleasure to commentate on Blancpain GT Series Asia here at Suzuka. Come back tomorrow. Still busy down below the podium. We've got 4 podiums coming up, and so we have more than 3 cars down beneath the podium. We've got the overall winners, we've got the Pro-Ams, the AMs, and of course the GT4 runners. All will have their own podiums overall, but it was a race of just extraordinary action. There were so many highlights, there was so much overtaking, and even around the corners where they weren't overtaking, the cars look brilliant here at Suzuka. It really is an epic circuit. And for those who take the points, they're extra special. Of course, they've got to come back and do it all over tomorrow, slightly earlier in the day, 2 or 3 hours earlier. So let's have a look back at the highlights. How can you narrow it down to just a couple of minutes? So conditions perfect before as the cars lined up on the grid. Daryl O'Young on pole position, Aditya Patel on the outside. One of the new cars this weekend, ARN Racing Ferrari, they were to feature. On the second row, Mark Lee was to start, Sean Thong was to follow. Let's take a look at the start. The front row seemed fairly even, but look at that number 5 Audi, tucked in behind the yellow Porsche. Young's holding it off, but Mark Lee's so effective away from the grid that he got past Aditya Patel. The Indian racer realised he had to go to the outside of the grid, down outside of the track into the first corner, then was challenged, more challenging for Sandy Stuvik, and a little bit of a clash there with Hunter Abbott at the start of the race. Then there's a bit more contact further back. That chicane was proving very difficult indeed. That's Jeffrey Lee getting it wrong. Tim Sugden shaping up to pass him behind. Then it was the time for the pit stops. 7 seconds extra at a standstill for Marchi Lee as he handed over to Sean Thong. And there was Peter Lee, the Chinese racer, taking over from pole starter Daryl O'Young. Daryl made a couple of mistakes that let that number 5 Audi through. And then after the pit stops, Sean Thong took over and he came out right with the yellow Porsche, and Peter Lee couldn't resist a slight mistake, got too eager through the first part of the Degners, and that was the change to the lead of the race. Whole host of really top drivers taking over Pro-Am combinations down the order. Didn't matter, they were fighting for 16th position. Now going around the outside of a back marker at 130 hour with 2 wheels off the circuit, that was very brave indeed from Kay Cozzolino in the Car and Guy 777 Lamborghini, but he was slow out of the chicane, and look how close. Well, I tell you why he was so close, because he was deciding to come into the pits because they had got their pit stop time wrong, so the Mercedes gave him a clatter. We heard after the race from Mitch Gilbert about how tight it was, but really the person who deserved the biggest plaudits was the race leader, Sean Thong, stretched his way clear. There's the change of the lead, very late in the race for Frank Yu going past to take the GT4 lead, but there, race winner, Sean Thong, building on the start that Marchi Lee had provided. Not only a winner, but a championship leader now. They came here second to Suzuka, and they've really boosted their hopes for the title. We've still got 3 more rounds after this and 1 more race here at Suzuka. But for Marchi Lee and Sean Thong, time to congratulate each other, and as they've got such good banter between them, to take the mickey out of each other as well. Can they do it again tomorrow on today's form? They're looking very much as though they've got a great shout. So people still getting busy. You can see the Japanese Formula 3 Championship getting lined up, ready to have their go later today. And now hoping for podium time. These girls have stood out waiting on the Blancpain podium for a while, and we have the 4 podiums to be served in sequence. You can see all the bottles of champagne lined up on the table. So it's waiting for the first drivers to be called out. It's the third place crew of Aditya Patel, who started, and he's led out by Mitch Gilbert. They're racking up good points in the championship. They came here in 3rd place overall. That will certainly help their chances, especially as the driver leading the championship, Hunter Abbott, could only finish in 7th place today after a little bit of a scramble. Then Devon Modell and Nick Foster coming out onto the podium. 2nd place for Craft Bamboo. So Audi 3rd, Porsche 2nd, but it was Audi winners. Marchi Lee coming out 2nd. And they're quickly onto the top step of the podium, and he's going to tug Lee onto the top. Is Sean Thong. No wonder they're so delighted. What a great performance they put up for Audi Hong Kong. So time for the presentation of the winners' trophies. the third place trophies will go 3, 2, 1, the order in which they came out. So more smiles from Aditya Patel and Mitch Gilbert. Super, super consistent. Their run of results. Devon Modell and Nick Foster, new faces this weekend. Australian and the Brit. But then for the crew that's racking up really, really strong results. 5th, 3rd, 2nd, 2nd, and now 1st for the Audi Hong Kong pair. Sean Thong and Mark Shi Lee. Sure, the drivers, checks as well as trophies. Very much a feature of the Blancpain GT Series around the world. So $2,500 to the 3rd place crew. Mitch Gilbert likes that. $5,000 to 2nd place. And there's the answer. How much more does the winner get? An extra $5,000. $10,000 overall to Audi Hong Kong. Yeah, and a big cheer. Money's important, but it's the winning that really, really counts. And certainly if you can put $10,000 back into the pot as well, that's a very good job indeed. Drivers know what comes next. Of course, it's time for the national anthems. No, it's time for the spray. Who's going to be quickest? Mitch Gilbert wins that race. And Mark Shi Lee and Sean Thong quick on the track, but frankly quite slow with the champagne cork. They'll have to work on that. But that's a pretty good run. No podium at the first race, but races 2, 3 and 4, and now 5 have been on the podium. And that is the consistency you need to win a championship. Will there be people to challenge them? Most certainly there will. It's very close at points in the race. A few mistakes from some of the chasers. A little bit of contact affected the Mercedes right at the end. That's the car that is leading the championship overall, or was leading the championship. Hunter Abbott sharing this weekend with Maxi Goertz. That's a bit of a setback for Hunter Abbott's title hopes. But let's see what happens tomorrow, Sunday at Suzuka. The weather's been really good today. Little breeze blowing around the circuit. It's not as sunny as it was before the start of the race, but that's kept the conditions cool. Really to the benefit of all the cars in the race. Now we're waiting for the following podiums. That's the overall podium. And we've got 3 more to follow. For Pro-Am, for AM, and then for the GT4 runners. Busy day of racing here at Suzuka, as always. Packed agenda, both on the Saturday and Sunday. Lots of people in, even watching the cars practice yesterday. Huge diversity of machinery. And it's the AM runners. That's Maxi Goertz on the left and Hunter Abbott, the erstwhile championship leader, 3rd in the Pro-Am class. 2nd in class, it's the new crew this weekend. It's Kuta Sasaki and Hiroaki Nagai, both of them impressed, but victory in the Pro-Am class to the 38 crew. That's Francisco Guedes being followed on the top step by Rui Aguas was up first, and the taller driver, Francisco Guedes. 2 Portuguese racers, very pleased with their job, and they almost gained another position in that final few laps when about 6 cars were nose to tail. Then they tripped up over some back markers, but the order swung a little bit this way and that, and the Mercedes duo on the right-hand side of the podium will be a little bit, have sort of wry smiles on their faces because it went away from them, unfortunately. And with that little bit of contact right at the end with the back of the Craft Bamboo Porsche led to the car slowing with possibly a slightly punctured radiator. But all credit to the ARN Racing Ferrari crew that took 2nd place in class. But the winners, Blancpain Wall Clock, goes to Spirit of Race Ferrari crew. In the white overalls, Rui Aguas. In the red overalls, Francisco Guedes. And for Francisco, a podium, top step of the podium on his debut in the championship. I think he'd like to come back for some more. And now time for the champagne. The podium girls very wisely decide to just take their leave before getting sprayed, because with 2 more podiums to come, they could be very wet indeed. So very sensible. And hopefully the drivers all have 2 pairs of overalls, because once they've been sprayed with champagne, they don't smell at their very finest. So these were the cars that finished very competitively to win the Pro-Am class in 5th, 6th and 7th positions overall. It's been a great day of racing here at Suzuka. I can't wait for tomorrow. Because tomorrow, of course, it all gets changed around when the 2nd driver, the pro driver, if you will, the more experienced driver, starts the race and then hands over to their less experienced colleagues who will be given the start this afternoon here at Suzuka. Very tidy race. and this circuit just keeps on supplying the goods for these drivers to go out and show their skills, and certainly it encourages them to try and overtake. It encourages them to have a go here, have a go there. And now the third podium of the day. This is for the AM honours. And a bit of larking around there. The 19 crew, that was Naoto Takeda and Takuya Shirasaka, KCMG Audi crew. And then we have David Biantoro and Greg Teo in the T2 Motorsports Ferrari. And winners in class, the 27 crew, Andrew Haryanto and Samson Chan taking the AM honours. There they come. Samson also races, he's the second of the two up, he also races in the Lamborghini. Uses a Lamborghini in the Super Trofeo, so he's a big fan of the Italian marque. But trophies being handed out in short order. So these are the AM runners, the Japanese crew there from KCMG in their Audi. Naoto Takeda and Takuya Shirasaka. And the second place crew get their trophies too. That's the T2 Motorsports duo in their Ferrari 488. But the winners' trophies go to Samson Chan and Andrew Haryanto. Andrew on the left-hand side, Indonesian racer. He'll be very pleased that afternoon. In fact, enjoyed victory by 16 seconds at the end. Very similar margin to the difference between the overall winner, Sean Thong, and Nick Foster at the conclusion. So plenty of pleasure. We've still got one more podium to go because, of course, we have the GT4 top three. We'll come up onto what is clearly now quite a wet and slippery podium. Might be dried down so they don't survive the race, then fall over, climbing onto the top step. Wonderful shot, just looking at the twists there as you look down the slope back towards the exit of the first corner. Pits on the left, main grandstand you can see on the far left-hand side. You just make out the entrance to turn one. I never tire of Suzuka. There's a good shot, just showing how much the start-finish straight slopes away. You can see people walking back down the pit lane to focus on the next race on the track coming up shortly, which is for the Japanese Formula 3 Championship. But right now we've still got the podium for the GT4 runners. And third place crew coming out will be the 89 Hub Auto Racing duo. Should be Masahiko Ida and Ringo Chong, who finished off the job. They're up. All the GT4 runners using Porsche Caymans next year. I think it'd be quite different. We'll see. Finishing in third place, second place in the GT4 class, number 77. Sorry, it's number 17. Which is, of course, the Taiwan Top Speed Racing team, George Chu, who started, and Kyo Chong, but they were hunted down. Hunted. Jean-Marc Merlin started for Craft Bamboo Racing. What a good day it's been for them. And there's Jean-Marc. He's always wearing a cap, but now it's a Pirelli winner's cap as he steps up. Victory in the GT4 class, shared with Frank Yu, both on the top step together. It's been a good season for them. 4 starts have become 5 starts, and that means 3 wins for Merlin and Yu. That really gives them a boost in the championship. Yeah, they're very pleased with that up on the top step. We'll be looking forward to tomorrow's race, see if they can add another 25 points into their pot. So Craft Bamboo Racing came away with 2nd and 4th in the GT3 class, and victory with their sole entry in the GT4 class. And for Jean-Marc Merlin, the French driver, and Hong Kong racer Frank Yu, starting to chalk up the points. So checks for 3rd and 2nd, and then $3,500 for the winners. So Jean-Marc Merlin and Frank Yu, that's it for the podiums. Oh, that's it for the 3rd place check. Lost by the 3rd place crew there, but very kindly given back to them. So that's it for the end of the first of 2 races, our first visit for the Blancpain GT Series here to Suzuka. I'm sure it's a circuit that we will visit many more times in the years ahead. It provided fantastic racing, really memorable racing action, and we're really looking forward to tomorrow when we get the 2nd of our 2 races here at Suzuka. It has been enormous fun. great shots around a truly, truly brilliant circuit. Can't wait for it to start all over again, but the honours today very much belong to Marchi Lee and Sean Thong for the Audi Hong Kong crew. Victory by a huge margin of 16.5 seconds, and I can assure you, in this championship, that is a big, big win. So, let's pop down and hear the closing thoughts with Renai.
What an incredible race here at the Suzuka circuit, an iconic race. I know the drivers have had such a great day out there, and so we hope you've enjoyed the racing here with us. From myself and the team, we'll see you tomorrow doing it all again right here at Suzuka. Goodbye.